Welcome to Pharmacy View podcast, where we provide regular interviews with pharmacists and key industry people within Australian pharmacy and associated industry. In this stream of podcast episodes, we discuss aspects of pharmacy career, resources and training, and how each area interacts with guests' current role or pharmacy-related business. I'm your host, Kavita Nadan, pharmacist founder from Locumate, and my guest today is proudly brought to you by Shopfront Solutions, for all of your shelf and digital marketing needs, part of the Arion Technologies Group.
A big hello to all our listeners this Friday afternoon. Today, I have a very exciting opportunity to be chatting with Kevin O from PSA. I was really fortunate enough to meet you, Kevin. I think it was back in 2022 or even like late 21. When I was we were preparing for a resume writing workshop as part of one of the partnerships we had with PSA. And we hit it off straight away. And I just thought, this is somebody I want to keep in touch with. And so be it, we've now had an opportunity to do a podcast together. So you're a person of many talents. Currently, Kevin is the manager of training, development and assessments at PSA and also a PIC at Blake's Pharmacy. So welcome, Kevin, to the podcast.
Thanks, Kavita. Thank you so much for your warm welcome. I'm actually so excited to be here today.
No problems. Now, I haven't done this with my previous podcast, but I thought it was something I'd introduce this time around. I want to ask you a little icebreaker question just to get to know a little snippet of Kevin O. Okay, so what is your favorite holiday you've ever taken and why?
Oh, my favorite holiday. Look, you know what? I'm going to be boring and actually say Bali. I know, Australians go there all the time, but, every time I go there, I just have such an amazing time with like the culture and just what you see there. And it's also, you get to be able to relax as well. So I know it's a very common holiday destination, but I just don't have anything bad to say about that place.
Well, I love Bali as well. And I think it's because of how relaxed it is, it almost feels like a home away from home. Like you can just go and be yourself and it doesn't feel like you're stressed out when you leave. So I agree. That's a great choice. Now, for anybody who doesn't know who Kevin is, can you please give us a little bit of a background about yourself and let everyone know who you are?
Yeah, sure. Look, I am a proud practicing pharmacist. I have a passion in pharmacy education and community pharmacy. I think what really excites me is, being able to bring science and evidence into education and trading products to upskill, our industry. At the PSA, I'm so fortunate that I get to work with a team of very, very talented pharmacists that deliver training and assessment strategies, and it really contributes to our profession's workforce development nationally. So we do, training events like CPD, we do qualifications, and also includes training for pharmacy assistants as well. I'm also a mental health advocate, so I bring mental health training to the pharmacy industry.
That's amazing. I remember doing the mental health first aid course when it first came out, and honestly, just not even enough time to be able to cover all that's available. And I love that that's one of your passions as well, to be able to bring that to our industry. Now, I'm going back a little bit at the start of your career. When you were in uni, and did you always think this is where you wanted to end up? And how different is it to the path that you did want to take when you were in uni versus where you are at now?
Yeah, look, it was completely different, like what I had expected back then. I started my pharmacy degree thinking, I'll probably become a hospital pharmacist. That's what I wanted to do. But then as I started to work in community pharmacy, I met some really amazing people. And you know what? I just fell in love with it. Just being able to be part of a central pillar of the community and really making a positive impact on people's, health, that felt so rewarding. So I was actually so determined then after to really progress my career in community pharmacy. But somewhere along my journey, I crossed paths with PSA. I met some amazing people there, and through networking, I started to learn what the organization does for the profession. And an opportunity came up where I was able to be part of contributing back to the profession and shaping the profession through education. And I've always been an advocate for lifelong learning. That's led me to complete a Master of Clinical Pharmacy and qualifications in training and assessment. So I thought, this was an opportunity that I wanted to get in on. And I wanted to see how I could, be part of change and help contribute to our profession as it evolves. So I joined the PSA, and now my role really centers around designing, developing, delivering training and assessment strategies. And of course, I still love community pharmacy, and so I couldn't give that up. So I still continue to work as a community pharmacist in this community that I absolutely love in Sydney. And I just, love what I get to do there.
That's amazing. And it's so exciting to hear that you are still in community pharmacy because, with all that's happening, I feel like now's such a great time to actually be in community with this increased group of practice and all that's coming to us. And so having your feet in there is really going to help, I guess, balance both worlds with the training and aspect of PSA plus giving back to the community, as you said. So, you have got your hands full at the moment. What would be probably your top 3 key pieces of advice on managing the different hats that you wear, I guess?
Yeah, look, I think the beauty of being a pharmacist is that we have the opportunity to wear different hats. I think, the first advice would be open-minded. Sometimes things can be completely different to what you thought it would be, and giving it a go may give you an unpleasant surprise. Our profession is evolving. There's so many new opportunities out there now, and I think just putting your hand up and exploring what those opportunities are. I had no idea what getting into training and education would be like. But, now I get to work with so many different stakeholders to explore how we can ensure we have a skilled workforce. And, as the role of pharmacist evolves, we've got that workforce capacity. And that to me is so, so exciting. My second advice probably would be, I'm going to actually borrow somebody else's advice, and it's actually from Dr. Faye Sim, the PSA National President. Recently at NAPSA Congress, she told the students to bite off more than you can chew, like mad. And I think, sometimes you just have to say yes when the opportunity presents. And even if it feels a little scary, you might feel like you can't do the job, but they say, fake it till you make it, right? And look, Kavi, I'm not suggesting to lie about your credentials or anything like that, but sometimes by just manifesting that confidence can be helpful. It's kind of like, positive affirmations or, visualizing what success looks like. And I know that even after saying yes to these different opportunities, just know that there's always resources you can draw from and people you can learn from. And there's always people you can ask for help. Oftentimes, learning doesn't take place through CPD and courses. Professional development also happens on the job as well. And I guess my final advice will be find a mentor. And they can be official or unofficial mentors. We can all benefit from having multiple mentors on our career journey, and they can really help you manage the different hats you wear. Think about, who you want in your dream team, because I think these people can help you, master your craft. They can provide you feedback to give you fresh and new perspective. They can advocate for your cause. They might be willing to collaborate with you, and they can also help, anchor you. So that's probably my 3 key advice.
I absolutely love those 3 key pieces of advice because I think my favorite one is that biting more than often you can chew. I think in a good way, it's just telling people to step outside of their comfort zone, right? For so long, if you get disillusioned with things or if you feel like things are stagnant, a lot of the times that can be changed from our own way that we approach things. And I think that's fantastic, especially to these new and upcoming early career pharmacists who might feel like maybe I can't do 2 different roles or I can't go and do a bit of this and a bit, but you can. The opportunities exist. And I think that's fantastic advice to allow them to be able to explore that. So I guess, you've had these varied experiences along your journey. what do you think has been one of your biggest learnings over the course of, whether it be professionally or personally, that you've really taken on board and kind of utilize on either a daily basis to do what you do?
Yeah, look, great question. Look, I think one of my important learnings during the course of my journey probably has been to trust myself.
Mm.
In the past, I often would, doubt my performance. I might question, did I counsel that patient adequately, or did I present, this education training well? And of course, I sometimes still feel that way. But more often than not, the doubt has not been valid. There's been times when I was too scared to even ask a question in the meeting or voice my opinion. But in the end, it turns out that my ideas or opinions were valued by others, or I doubted my ability to deliver on a session. But in the end, I actually received great feedback. So I think it's important that yes, we need to be critical of ourselves at times, but also remember to believe in yourself. And when you do a great job, I think it's so important to celebrate those wins. And that was actually something one of my managers spoke to me about during one of my professional development meetings. Celebrate your achievements, celebrate your wins. It's so important.
I love that. And I think that just because what can happen sometimes is we just on this path of, this is my goal, this is when I get there, and I'll celebrate once I only achieve that. But what you don't realize is every little stepping stone is a moment of celebration, a moment of recognition that you've actually gotten from this point to this point. And I think that's something that I feel like, which is a good segue into my next question I want to ask you is, intern year is really daunting, especially, you're coming from 3, 4 full years of studying and that's all now you have to combine that with combination of working full time and then making sure you pass one of the biggest exams in your life. That's what it feels like. What sort of advice or self-care practices do you think is really important for interns to practice to get through a pretty big year for them?
Yeah, look, without a doubt, the intern year is probably one of the biggest. I knew it was probably one of the biggest in my life.
Mm.
You're transitioning into probably full time work. You're studying your exams. You also have assignments you have to do as part of your intern training program. So I think first and foremost, be kind to yourself. Transitioning from university to work is a huge milestone. It's a massive achievement. So like what I said before, celebrate that win. Then take the time to settle in your new environment. Have an understanding of, the pharmacy's workflow, the procedures, policies, the roles and responsibilities of your new team members. Really try to get to know your colleagues. I think it's important to try plan that year as well. Exams may seem far away, but they do roll around quickly. So, have like a key date calendar, follow your training plan. And if you need help with planning, contact your intern training provider. They can help you set some goals, some milestones. And then again, once you achieve them, then make sure you celebrate that. I think also have a good support network. So you can build that through your peers, colleagues, and, don't be afraid to ask for help. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness, but, I think it shows strength, confidence, and resourcefulness. So, be able to leverage the talent of others in areas that you don't have capacity. And sometimes, asking for help can be in the form of feedback. I think seeking feedback is a really great way to build self-awareness. So you can ask help or feedback from fellow interns, your preceptor, other colleagues, the pharmacy owner, or even your intern training provider, because they're here to help and guide you. So lean on them. And I think finally, my last care practice is probably invest in a very good and comfy pair of shoes, because you're going to be on your feet all day. Like, you go from sitting at uni in front of a computer to now on your feet. So, your feet deserve some loving as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think I still need to think about that, like, 20 years on, and I'm like, I should have got better shoes this year. My feet are not loving me right now. But very, very important piece of advice. I agree with that. Now, you've got these trainings which extend from, say, your pharmacy assistants all the way to pharmacists. And I know you oversee this and are part of it all. What do you think are the benefits that people can receive? I mean, I'm part of PSA, but I think for people who are just thinking, what can I get? What are the benefits, and what can I achieve from being part of PSA? What would you tell them if you were to sit down and have a chat to them?
Yeah, look, I think it's important to remember that PSA exists for all pharmacists, regardless of, where they practice or what their role is. We really advocate for the profession to move forward and continually evolve so that pharmacists can make a positive impact to healthcare. When I talk to students, they're often thinking about their careers and where or how to start their pharmacy journey. And I really can't stress how important it is to stay current and up to date with industry knowledge, know what's happening in our profession and what opportunities are available. And PSA can help you stay current so you don't miss out on those important updates. There might be a new program being rolled out, maybe a pilot or project you can be involved in, or maybe some committee you can join. So, be engaged with PSA. That will help you stay informed. I think the other benefit of being part of PSA is the network. Networking is so important. So by being aligned to PSA, you have the opportunities to meet other like-minded pharmacists and grow your network. Just like how I met you, Kavi.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
You might meet your next employer. So it's so important to grow that network, and so I think there's so many benefits as part of PSA. We're actually just launching a new program soon called Flying Start, and it's actually designed to support pharmacists in their first 100 days of registration.
Yeah.
So that's quite exciting. So watch this space, and if you're not part of the PSA network, then I can't emphasize that more enough.
Yeah, definitely. I think just any opportunity to be able to build that network and then utilizing that network as support, as a place where you can feel comfortable to be able to, share, but also gain a lot as well. It's fantastic. Um, Now, as I said before, you are currently, in a couple of roles right now. What resources or tools do you utilize to manage and upskill your staff, whether it be at a pharmacy level or in the management role that you are currently in at PSA?
Yeah, look, I think there's so many resources available, and our industry is changing so rapidly. It's so important just to, be able to have current skills and knowledge. Because I work at the PSA, and one of
Yeah,
our core functions is to deliver education. I'm always thinking, what CPD or what courses can I recommend to
yeah,
colleagues at the pharmacy? I think what's been useful is the increased access of education through digital means, like this podcast that we're doing,
yeah.
but also webinars. And I think that's what we've been doing a lot at the PSA. And what this really means, I think, is that subject matter experts and key opinion leaders have become so much more accessible for pharmacists. During the rollout of COVID vaccinations, when pharmacists first started to come on board, we were able to dial in a subject matter expert from overseas to talk to pharmacists and bring the latest developments of the vaccines. So I think, that's probably been one of the, great ways that we've been able to help upskill pharmacists.
Fantastic. And do you think there are some synergies that you can think of being managing pharmacist in the community versus managing pharmacist as part of an organization? And what are those things that you utilize that has a cross section between the two?
Yeah, I think for me as a community pharmacist and also working in education, I'm always
Hmm.
assessing, what are the gaps in knowledge of skills of a pharmacist and, how our practice is evolving. It's an industry where I think the only constant is change. We've
Yeah.
seen electronic prescriptions become a reality. Regulations are always changing. New drugs are in development.
Yes.
There's always new scientific evidence, changing clinical guidelines.
Yes.
So I think for me, I use that frontline experience, and I often take this back to my role at the PSA to start conversations about, what kind of educational training we should be providing to support the profession, or how can we bring, pharmacists to that next level. So for me, having these two roles actually really complement each other. I think just having that deep understanding of what is actually happening in practice, this can really help help make more meaningful contributions in my work at the PSA.
That's so good. And that's so true because you would live and breathe it and see, how the community responds to certain things. And you're like, well, firsthand, this is exactly how it's going to roll out. That's really critical, I think. And they go so hand in hand with what you're doing right now. Now, just moving forward, future thinking a little bit, how do you think the industry is going to change over the next 2 years? What do you see in the pipeline of what's going to come into play?
Yeah, I think it's an exciting time to be a pharmacist.
Yes.
If anything, COVID has really helped, bring attention to the positive impact that, we can make in healthcare. These opportunities have really created momentum for our industry. So I think over the next, few years, we're going to see a bigger role for pharmacists. We're going to play a much bigger part of patients' healthcare teams. And I think this will happen in a variety of settings, community, hospital, general practice, aged care, Aboriginal community-controlled health services. We're going to be vital across that healthcare continuum, from identification through, screening services to treatment or management. As our practice continues to evolve, we're already seeing scope of change expand, like in immunization, for example. We're able to do more vaccines now, Japanese encephalitis recently, HPV, travel vaccines. I think other injectable medicines will also become a focus. We're already seeing some programs at the moment where pharmacists are able to administer long-acting injectable buprenorphine, for example, and that's really exciting.
So cool.
And also prescribing. Look, that's been a big topic, so I would say watch this space closely.
Absolutely. How things have changed, right? And I think that in the last probably 10 years has been this multitude of changes in terms of technology, in changes of our scope, obviously, but also things that we are so intrinsically good at and we've been trained for. It's like now we're like, wow, I can really see how my role is going to flourish in this new environment. I think it's so exciting. Like I'm just every time I hear like, wow, this is so exciting for us as a profession, but also as a cohort. Like, now we can tell people this is what we do. It's an exciting time all around anyway. So for you or generally, whether it be personally or it be professionally, what's on the roadmap for you for the next, say, 18 months? And is there anything off the grid?
Look, I think I'm just going to continue to try and diversify, my experiences and really have the courage to keep trying new things. I think what I've learned from, COVID is that we need to be comfortable with change. And I think this will, help me become a better person, help me build, qualities like, empathy, resilience, self-awareness, creativity. So I think it's really, like what I said in the beginning, just, giving things a go and saying yes to things.
Yep, absolutely. And just a little curveball, if you could go back to your 18-year-old self, your young baby self, what advice would you give yourself, Kevin?
I think I would go on that same message as what I want to do in, over the next, couple of months. Like, really get out there, really try new things. I think it's so important to really expose yourself to the different experiences out there. Be vulnerable at times. Have courage. I think, then as a person will grow and it can only get better, right? So. Get out there is my
Absolutely. And I think
advice.
that's getting advice, especially for the young ones who feel like they need to do it all right now. It's like there is time. Like
Yeah,
you've got time. If you need to make mistakes, if you need to try something and it doesn't work, it's okay. Like
exactly.
we'll talk to you in 10 years' time and you'll be at a totally different trajectory or you'll be doing
Yeah.
something that you absolutely love. And I think that's absolutely fitting and wonderful advice for all our young student pharmacists as well. Now, Kevin, that brings us towards the end of our podcast. It's been so good. You've been so informative. I could chat to you all day, but obviously you've got things to do and, a weekend to get to. So thank you so much for your time today. It's been super informative. And, if anyone can, please check out Kevin O on LinkedIn. So much information, so a wealth of knowledge. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for joining us today on the Pharmacy View podcast, and don't forget to like, share, and leave us a comment if you found this episode of value or have feedback. Podcast episodes are promoted through social media, LinkedIn, YouTube, and major podcast mediums, and each episode can be found on the Pharmacy View webpage with links to the guest contact and business details. If you're a pharmacist or industry support supplier and would like to join us on an episode, send us a message through LinkedIn or complete the inquiry form on the Pharmacy View webpage. I'm your host, Kavita Nadan, pharmacist founder from Locumate, and thanks again for joining us today on the Pharmacy View podcast.